Let us discuss handling events. Handling events in React is very similar to handling events in HTML, but there are a couple of syntactic differences. Let's look at an example. Here we have a button and the event is on click, and we have specified an event handler within double quotes over here. If we wanted to write JSX for this button, we would write it like this. So this is our event in HTML and our event handling code in HTML, and this is our event in JSX and our event handling code in JSX. As we can see, there are a couple of syntactic differences. Let's look at what the docs say. The first difference is that React events are named using camel case rather than lowercase. So this is the HTML event and it is all lowercase, and this is the JSX event, and as you can see, this is in camel case. You can observe that C is in uppercase over here. The next difference is that with JSX you pass a function as the event handler rather than a string. So in HTML we are passing in a string for our event handler code over here, and in JSX we pass in a function within the curly braces as our event handler code. Observe that here we do not have double quotes and we do not also have brackets. Here we have double quotes at the beginning and at the end over here, and we also have brackets over here. So we have to remember 2 points. The first is that our event names should be specified in camel case. The second is that we specify a function as our event handler and we specify that within curly braces. Now this do something is a function which is an event handler, and its code might look like this, or it could be an arrow function like this. The event object that is passed to this event handler, E in this case, is a synthetic event. Do something is our event handler and E is the event object that is passed to the event handler, and E will be a synthetic event. If we go to the docs at react.js.org/docs/events.html, in the overview it says that your event handlers will be passed instances of synthetic event across browser wrapper around the browser's native event. So the key term here is that it is a wrapper around the browser's native event. Let us take a quick look at the supported events list. As you can see here, there are a lot of events that are supported: clipboard events, composition events, keyboard events, focus events, form events, generic events, mouse events, and so on. Let us scroll down a bit and see if we can identify some of them. Here we have the clipboard events: on copy, on cut, on paste. Here we have the keyboard events: on key down, on key press, on key up. Observe that all of them are in camel case. Here we have the focus events: on focus, on blur, again in camel case. Here we have some form events: on change, on input, on invalid, on reset, on submit. Here we have some mouse events: on click, on double click, on mouse over, etc. Here we have some touch events: on touch cancel, on touch start, etc. Here under UI events we have on scroll, and so on. The two most common events we'll encounter are on click and on change. Let us look at some examples. In order to do our examples, we require a React application that has been created using the create React app. If you have one already, you can use that, or you can create using this command npx create React app followed by the name of the application. In this case, I am using the application name app4. Once the command completes, cd into the app4 folder, and from within the app4 folder type npm space start. I have already created my React project app4, so I'm going to cd into that, cd app4, and I'm going to type npm space start, and that will open up localhost :3000, and we should see the default example code of src/app.js over here. Now I'm going to open my React applications folder within Visual Studio Code. I'm going to use open folder and will open my React applications folder. I have opened the folder. I'm going to close this welcome page. I'm going to expand src folder and I'm going to add a subfolder to it. I am clicking on this new folder icon over here and I'm going to call that folder components. And with components folder selected, I'm going to add a subfolder to the components folder now. I'm going to click on this icon again here and I'm going to call this new folder handling events. With the components folder selected, I'm going to add a second subfolder and I'm going to call that contacts. This contact subfolder will be empty. I have created this second subfolder because I want VS Code to show this handling events folder more clearly like this. And the examples that we are going to discuss now, I will place them within this new handling events subfolder. Please note that the subfolders that we created, components, contacts, handling events, you can give any names you want. Different teams use different folder structures and different names. Just make sure not to rename this folder here, src, but any folders that I am creating, like components, contacts, handling events, you can choose to give different names. I'm going to rename this contact subfolder to dummy because we are really not going to use that folder. Let us look at the UI for our first example. Here we have a button which has the label click me, and on clicking this button, we want an alert to be shown which says you clicked me. So our UI will just consist of a button with the label click me. So let's implement that. I have selected the handling events folder and I'm going to click on this icon over here to add a new file to it. And I'm going to call this file clickalert.js and this will be a function component. So let's write a function keyword and the name is click alert and it should return some JSX. So I have written the return statement and our UI just consists of a single button with the label click me. So let's write that. So it's going to be a button and the label should be click me. Let us export this click alert function component so that we can use it within app.js. So I'm going to save the file now and I'm going to double click on app.js, and as usual I'm going to remove all of the code that create react app gives us. So I have removed that now and I want to return our click alert component over here. And VS Code has automatically added this import statement to import this click alert function component from this clickalert.js file by specifying the relative path to that file. Let's save this file and look at the output. As you can see, we have a button with the label click me, and clicking it does nothing because we haven't written any event handler code. Now let's add that. Let's go back to our clickalert.js file and let us add our event handler code. So I'm going to type on click equals, and within curly braces I'm going to specify handle click. Handle click will have to be a function, so let's define that. Const handle click equals, let's make it an arrow function, and what we want to happen is we want an alert to be shown with the message you clicked me. So let's put that. So let's write alert you clicked me. Let's save the file and let's look at the output. We have the button over here. I'm going to click that now. I have clicked it, and as you can see, we are being shown an alert with the message you clicked me, which is what we wanted. Let's examine the code that we have written once again. On our button, we have specified our onClick event using camel case notation, and we have specified a function within the curly braces as the event handler code, and we have defined handle click over here. Let us look at a variation of this syntax. Handle click here is a function, and the function definition is this. And what we can do is, instead of using the handle click variable, we can directly put in this function definition over here. So let's do that. I'm going to duplicate this line and comment this first line, and I'm going to remove handle click and I'm going to replace that with this function definition over here. I'm copying that and pasting that over here. Let me minimize the font just a little bit. Since we don't need handle click anymore, I'll comment out this line too. So let's examine this code now. We have specified our event using camel case, and within the curly braces, what we have done is we have specified a function definition. That means we have specified the parameters as well as the function body along with the arrow symbol. So we have specified the entire function definition within our curly braces over here. Let me undo this change and go back to what we had previously. I will comment out this second line and uncomment this first line now, and I'm going to uncomment this handle click line again. Now let's say in this function we had multiple lines. If we have multiple statements of code, we need to use the curly braces. So let's do that. Suppose that we also need to write to the console that you clicked this button, you clicked this button. Since we have 2 lines of code, we'll need to use the curly braces. Let's look at the output to confirm that everything is working. And as you can see, this is working fine. Let's look at the console to see if we got the message. And as you can see, we have this message here, you click this button. So everything is working fine. Just like we had done previously, let us replace handle click with the entire function definition over here. So I'm going to again duplicate this line. I'll comment the first line out and I'll replace handle click with this function definition over here. I've copied this and I'm going to paste it here now. Let's adjust the indentation just a little bit. Let's also take this commented line and put it after the first commented line. Now our code looks slightly better. Let us take a look at the output to see if everything is working. Let me click on the button. As you can see, the alert shows up correctly and also the message to the console is printed correctly. So that means this code is working. Let's examine this code now. Our event is in camel case over here, on click with an uppercase C, and this curly brace over here signifies that this is a JSX expression that needs to be evaluated. This is the opening curly brace, and the outer curly brace over here is the corresponding closing curly brace for evaluating the JSX expression. And this code that I have demarcated over here is our function. Here we have used an arrow function. We also could have used a traditional function. These brackets are the brackets for the parameters. This is the opening curly brace of the function body, and this inner curly brace is the closing curly brace of the function body. So although we have discussed 3 ways of writing our function, there are effectively 2 ways that we have discussed. One is we have defined our function outside our JSX and we have assigned that to a variable called handle click over here, and then we have used that over here. So that is one way. And the second way is we specify the entire function definition right within the curly braces over here. In this example, instead of using a variable, we have directly specified our entire function definition over here. And in this case, our function has only 1 line of code. And in this example also, we have specified our function definition within the curly braces. But in this case, our function body has multiple lines of code. So we had to wrap our function body using the curly braces. So we'll end up with double curly braces at the end over here.